everybody. Thank y'all so much for being here today. I already have an active chat, and I am so thankful for you guys. Uh, this is going to be a really fun show today. I have two really awesome guys here backstage waiting to come up. We're going to talk about UFOs and other pop culture conspiracies and things like that. And yeah, I don't know where it's going today, but it's going to be amazing, amazing, amazing. Okay. So I would like for everybody to please go to my website if you guys would like to see my shows. I'm the weekend or a weekend host at Spaced Out Radio. There's several of us, okay, over there. And I have a show called Off the Trails. You guys can find all my shows at thecryptidhuntress.com. Also, I have this daytime show every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then on Thursday nights, I have a show where I usually do remote viewing on that one of all those cool paranormal topics. Okay. So that's at 8 p.m. on Thursdays, 10 p.m. on the weekends at Spaced Out Radio. All right. Now, if you guys would like to support what I do, all my work and my shows, y'all go sign up for my Patreon. That's the Cryptid Huntress on Patreon. And also, my shop is War Woman Goods. That's one word on Etsy. It's actually separate words, but on Etsy, they jumble it for some reason. Okay. So y'all go check out my shop, War Woman Goods. Okay. Also, I'm going to be at several conferences this year. Okay. And Dr. John Stamey's here with me today. He's the one that puts on the Frogman Festival. And the Georgia Bigfoot Festival, the Georgia Bigfoot Conference. So March the 4th is the Frogman Festival. That is in Mason, Ohio. And then April 1st, we've got the Georgia Bigfoot Conference up in Dillard. We're going to talk about those today. All right. Also, Spaced Out Radio is having their fan party on May 22nd through that's May 19th through the 21st. And then I'm flying out to Grafton, Ohio. I have the Journey to Truth conference where I'm presenting there. That's May 22nd through the 25th. I hope you guys will join us. They just put out a killer promo for that yesterday. Y'all go check out my social media. You will find it there. Okay. Well, let's get to our show today. Okay. Because we have lots to discuss. And we're going to be going down the rabbit hole today. Okay. And I have Dr. John Stamey and best-selling author Dave Atwell here in the studio. Now, I'm going to give them both a formal introduction before we start. All right. After nearly 30 years of managing grocery and retail stores, Dave Atwell began to write. He's always had a passion for writing, but rarely had time to do it. Historical fiction, horror, westerns, and suspense have always been his favorite topics to write about. He's written several stories that never made it to print, but his best-selling series, Rotting Frontier, takes from all four genres. Rotting Frontier follows a stranded family in the plains of the Dakota Territory in 1866. It's a zombie series, y'all, and it's awesome, okay? He's also the head of Pop Culture Stars on the ScaryCast Network Wednesday nights at 8:30 Eastern. Now, I've had Dr. John Stamey here with us before. He's always had an interest in the paranormal. He runs a number of Comicons as well as Bigfoot and Lizardman festivals and Frogman. Okay. He hosts ScaryCast, a weekly podcast on Blog Talk Radio. He's published several books, including Bigfoot Explorers, An Introduction to Hominology, Look Up in the Sky, UFOs, or Aliens, UFOs, and Anomalies, and Lizardman, Bigfoot, and Friends. All right. So please help me welcome to the show today. I have Dr. John Stamey and author Dave Atwell. Hi, fellas.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Man, thank you guys so much for being here today. I am so looking forward to this. Both of you are very accomplished in your own unique ways. And here we are together to talk about conspiracies today, right? Tell me how y'all got into the conspiracy theory topics. Maybe Dr. John, how about you start? Because this was your idea today.
Okay. First of all, hello, everybody. It's so good to be here with you, Jessica. And it's so good to have you involved in upcoming conferences and upcoming appearances on the ScaryCast Network, especially next Wednesday night at Pop Culture Stars, because Dave is our host there. He took over when I became sick 2 years ago, and he does a better job than I can do, I'll tell you that. He's really good. And that's why we have this show today. I'm sorry, I'm digressing for a moment. The reason we have this show today is because Dave, it was about 2 weeks ago, he came up with a topic that was so entertaining and so incredible. I said, Dave, we've got to get this out. And Dave is truly one of the best friends I've ever had. He's from Jacksonville, North Carolina, and he helps out a lot with Comicons up there, like Jacksonville, Morehead City, and Havelock. Just a great guy. And we're both kind of the same mindset in terms of conspiracies. I have an axiom, and it is the truth. Unless it's absolutely crazy, where there is smoke, there is fire. There just
I have
is.
to agree. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a thought. It's not a rule. It's an axiom. An axiom is something that is indisputable and irrevocable in mathematics. And it is an absolute axiom. If people are talking about it, I mean, I'll just say this, and I'm going to stay out of the bad stuff. So many people talk about Pizzagate. There must be something there other than pepperoni. So many people talk about Roswell. There must be something there. So people need to listen. Now, if something's absolutely crazy, the Three Stooges are still alive and it doesn't work. But there are a lot of great conspiracies out there that need to be discussed. Now, Dave Atwell's favorite conspiracy theory is that Anna Nicole Smith lives in North Myrtle Beach. Right, Dave?
Oh man.
I'll turn that. I'm gonna turn control of my television set back to Jessica Jones after that. And by the way, I got one thing to say. I always carry this with me. This is Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. So I am always down the rabbit hole.
Oh my gosh. That actually reminds me is that I have a friend of my show. His name is Frank Jacob, and he lives in Germany. He is really big into CERN, into Project Looking Glass, actually. It's a covert operation that our government worked on, allegedly. Okay. And it's about time travel technology. And it was interesting because today, as a matter of fact, he posted, something on social media. And it has to do with what we're talking about today. It's a conspiracy theorist. Is a person that researches a subject and then uses logic and critical thinking skills to form an educated opinion instead of just believing blindly whatever they saw on TV. And that is from Frank Jacob, my friend over in Germany. So, yeah, I mean, I got to say, fellas, most of the conspiracy theories that we've heard over the past few years have all come true. Okay. Just about everything. So, now, is that because we're just smart? We're not watching TV and some of us knew better? We were able to see through them or what? So I don't know. I figured maybe today we could talk about some very interesting ones that have to do with UFOs. What do y'all think? And Dave, you have a really cool series about zombies. Okay. What if there's some conspiracy theories around the zombie apocalypse and things like that? Do you cover that in your books?
It's funny. It's more of it comes off as almost a vampire zombie type thing. But when you start reading it, you find that it's more about choices you make. And basically the hunger virus, what happens, virus is the key word now. I don't even think I used the word virus in the books. But the solve for it is doing the worst possible thing you feel like you can do. And in the event that you do run with the disease, the virus, wherever you want, the curse is what I call it. It's almost like a fountain of youth. So not only does it solve the condition, you still have the condition, but what it does is that it improves your standard of living. You live longer, you have, better resistance to illnesses, you heal faster, all this kind of stuff. But it's the worst possible thing you could feel like doing. Spiritually, morally, socially. And the first two books are out in the frontier in the Dakota Territories during the Reconstruction period. And everything is so desolate that it puts that curse, the hunger curse, into a certain spotlight where it's kind of like, hey, if you have it this period of time, the hardest thing to do is the feed because everything's so desolate. Things wind around and they go to the third book, which is called Ripper, and it actually ties into the Jack the Ripper slayings, where the curse, and I joke a lot of times to say the curse is like the Forrest Gump of horror. You know how he was around different time periods, you know, and turned up. The curse does the same thing. And so you go into the Jack the Ripper era, and the people who have the curse there still have to feed, but instead of having a limited food supply, now they have food everywhere, but they can't hide it because you figure you've got 1 million people there in Whitechapel, and you know Whitechapel's the size of what, you know, 3 Walmarts. So the ability to hide that you have that curse, and then of course, you know, I would leave out the solve for the curse is to do the right thing and not live at the expense of other human beings, and at which time you catch what they call the rot. And the best way I can compare it is if you take a fresh apple, set it on your countertop, and just leave it there, and it just basically disintegrates. That's what you will do if you do the right thing. You get the curse, the hunger curse, and you do the right thing. You don't live at the expense of other people. You get the rot, and it's just a horrible way to go for doing the right thing.
Yeah, but you save your soul though. Like you get to die without a tainted soul. Okay, exactly. I would rather rot. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, religious aspects, you know, people that were, you know, wanting to take their lives, but it was the 1860s, and, you know, there's, you know, the religious aspects of it, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but it stirs the thought, and it's funny, after this COVID stuff we just went through, watching people react to that,
yeah,
it kind of hit a little close to home. I was like, wow, I kind of picked the wrong time to start.
Or was it the right time? Actually, it's probably the right time. Yeah, it's like you saw it coming, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and that actually has some. My friend Frank that I mentioned earlier, he has a film series out called "A Tale of Two Timelines," and it is kind of about very interesting how it has to do with kind of like where we are as a society today too, and everybody's kind of split into two, you know, as far as a whole bunch of that topic goes. We won't get too deep into that, but y'all know what we're talking about. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I love a good zombie story. Okay. And I get asked very frequently to remote view Jack the Ripper. Okay. Because I have a remote viewing show. I'm just not prepared to remote view Jack the Ripper and all of that carnage. It just seems, it doesn't seem fun.
Nah, it was the worst. My brother does the fact checking and editing and all that kind of stuff. We're like a 1-2 punch when it comes down to my writing and everything. And he said, if you ever put me through this again, I'll never talk to you again. It's and even me personally, I dipped when I was writing that book because it's such a miserable period of time beyond the Jack the Ripper slayings, that just the misery that was going on. And then you look at the calendar and you're like, wow, that was, you know, 130, 140 years ago. That wasn't that far away, that kind of misery. And, you know, if it doesn't bring you back around, but like I said, for me, it kind of sunk me to a point where everybody was like, hey, good morning, Dave. And I'm like, what's so good about it? You know, because you find yourself dipping. And it's a tough topic to tackle. Easy.
Yeah. It is. We got to keep those vibrations high. Excuse me. Yeah, we got to keep our vibrational frequencies high and not dip into that. We could get really depressed over some of this stuff very easily. Absolutely. Yeah, well, because we're always lied to, okay, and that's something that, especially in the UFO community, in the cryptid community, there is a vested interest in keeping the truth from us. And so even when it comes to like John and I, we've talked about the assassination of 2 of our presidents and the impact that had on our society, our culture, the whole world. And that's why I like remote viewing, because I'm able to go in and look at what really happened with some of this stuff, not the story we've been told. So yeah, and so I was thinking maybe Dr. John, you could talk about Roswell, maybe the UFO crash, alleged crash. What do you think about that?
Okay, here's what I'd like to do, if it's okay. I'd like to start out with something that came from President Bush 43 and then move directly to Roswell. May I do that?
Please. Yes.
Okay. Everybody wants to know, what is the government's stance on UFOs? Well, I can tell you we're clear on that, because President Bush 43, George Bush Jr., as we might call him, was on the Jay Leno show pretty soon after he left office. And Jay Leno said, President Bush, can we please turn the camera to the audience and let people ask you questions, because you're a very special guest and we know that they've got questions for you. And he said, certainly. So they turned it was a 2-camera thing. They had Bush and Jay Leno, and then they had the crowd. Mm-hmm. And a young lady, she's about 21, 22, raised her hand, and she got called on. She said, President Bush, I'd like to find out what the government's stance is on UFOs, and are they real? Well, President Bush had essentially 3 different responses that he could have made. One was, yes, they're real. One was, no, they're not real. And the other one is, I can't tell you. And he chose the last one, I can't tell you, which implicitly states, I can't tell you what I know. Now, if they didn't exist, he could have said they don't exist. Therefore, it is an absolute fact from a former sitting president that they know about UFOs. Now, all these hearings and all this stuff is nothing but window dressing. They're not going to let anything out. We know they're not. And I'm certain, because I've talked with too many people. I have this axiom, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's fire here. And especially in 1947 in Roswell. Now, Jessica, you told me something a little earlier today that I was not aware of. I'm under the impression that there was a crash, and there might have been a weather balloon that went down, but that was not the only thing that went down. It was a flying saucer. Now, Jessica, do you mind telling us a little bit about what you know?
Yeah, well, from a remote viewer standpoint, I do know of people who have remote viewed the Roswell incident, and there was more than one crash that day. There was at least 2, from what what I've been told. There's 2, maybe 3 crashes actually that were there. And as a matter of fact, I did have Raymond Samansky on my show at Space Out Radio. Now, he is a former lead scientist at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And he's the leading expert on their UFOs there and things like that. And we've had some very interesting conversations. And I don't know, as far as, let me backtrack a little bit. They say that the Roswell bodies and the crash were taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base there. So, yeah.
That's what they say. And I was followed by the government for 2 years because I got told where they were taken, and it was not Wright-Patterson. And Facebook is sitting there listening, and they know exactly what I'm saying. I will not divulge that until my deathbed. But they were not taken to Wright-Patterson. That doesn't mean that there's not lots of stuff there. But there's a massive amount of secrecy around Roswell and around the bodies and the aliens, plural, that were still alive. Okay? So that's as far as I can go. I will not go any farther. I was caught driving the wrong way down a one-way street in Washington, D.C. in 1999. Okay, because there's so many one-way streets there.
You got caught.
Yeah, I pulled out and I'm a little boy from Morganton, North Carolina. I pulled out and I went toward the main street, and all of a sudden here came the blue lights. Well, okay, let me go ahead and tell you what was really going on. Okay, I have an open container of bourbon in my back seat. Jess Hendricks and I both have drinks in our hands.
Oh my gosh.
My registration is expired, my driver's license is expired, and my tag is expired. Okay. Now in Burke County, North Carolina, we would have said they were going to put you under the jailhouse. And now here I am in Washington, D.C., sitting there with a drink. I mean, it's just like, it couldn't have been that's back in my partying days. That's 23, 24 years ago. I don't know, Dave, maybe I still party a little bit, but that's okay. It's more control.
Oh, John.
But I'm telling you, it was like terrifying. And what I did was I wrote my attorney's name and number on a piece of paper for Jess. And I said, when you get out of here, call Tom. And all I got to say is my attorney has still kept me out of jail for 27 years.
Oh
but
my
anyway,
gosh.
I know he's a great guy. So anyway, what happens is they came, they ascertained the situation. They saw what was going on. They took my driver's license and what registration, the old registration that I had. They said, you need to wait right here. I said, don't worry. I took the keys out of the ignition, put them on the dash. I said, we're here for you. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And I'm starting to get really nervous because I'm wondering when the additional cop cars are coming. 35, 40 minutes later, the guy comes back. And he says, sir, we want you to get out of the car, lock the car, you and your friend walk to wherever you were going, and do not come back to this car until sunup. We're going to be driving this beat, and if you do, we'll put you in jail. I said, okay, thank you. Now, that tells me that something is on my record, and they didn't want me in, quote, the drunk tank, running my mouth about what I knew. So, and it was amazing. I mean, that's a true story.
So wait, so is this a conspiracy theory? Okay.
No, what this is this is the basis that where there's smoke, there really is fire. Because what I know, if I told it, it would be called a conspiracy theory, even though it's the truth. And that's the whole basis for conspiracy theories. And I hope I'm not going to mess with your show here, but I want to turn it over to Dave, because Dave has 2 weeks ago on Pop Culture Stars. Everybody needs 9 o'clock Pop Culture Stars. It is the most enjoyable. It'll make you smile. Okay. And we got Jessica on next week, and she'll even make you smile more. But Jessica, if I may, I want to ask Dave Atwell to give you the smoke and fire story from baseball, because this is, and Dave said this on the show 2 weeks ago. Dave said, this proves that there are conspiracy theories and they are real. May I do that, please, Jessica?
Yes, please. I want to hear about baseball because, listen, in my experience, I believe all sports are rigged. Okay. And I have no idea where we're going with this. But everything is rigged. I've seen it with my own eyes because I used to do a lot. I used to go to a lot of sports games, okay, in Atlanta. It's all rigged. Okay, Dave. You got the floor.
But no, wait, I got to make a comment about all sports are rigged. They're all rigged except professional wrestling. Right, Dave?
Yeah, of course not.
It's choreographed.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I had to say it. It's a dad joke. Okay.
First off, Dr. John, the government guys that were following you, they were the IRS. That's who that was. Just a heads up.
No, it wasn't.
No telling.
And before I start up on baseball, let me just go ahead and the Braves, baby.
Oh, Atlanta Braves. Yeah, it's rigged too.
We've got 2 months before opening day, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to pull anything away from the UFO talk, because as we were speaking in the green room, the nifty thing about UFOs and the cryptid stuff with me is that I'm the opposite end of it. I'm the guy who's never seen anything. I'm not necessarily a skeptic, but I'm the guy that goes, show me the money, convince me. If you tell me, hey, a place is a great place to eat, I'm now just going to take your word for it. You know what I mean? Bring me some of the chow. Or if you say you've got a great lasagna, cook it. Bring it.
You're a typical skeptic. It's good to have some skepticism. Yes.
But I will tell you though, if I eat that lasagna and it's amazing, I will walk around and tell the planet.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
Okay.
again, it's all about making me a believer. So, falling back to that, I've got my notes. Lord knows that's how bad I got it. I do it for two reasons. One, because of my advanced aging and I can't remember. And two, there's so much that goes into this baseball thing. It's amazing. So first off, I want to preface everything by saying this is not a knock at all on any professional athlete, sports team, or anything. I think this is way, way above my pay grade. People we will never get our hands on, and I say that metaphorically. It's just so far out there. So it's certainly not a knock on any baseball players or athletes at all, because I am a huge sports guy. I love it. Can't get enough of it. And for as many times as I've been in a batting cage trying to hit a 60 mile an hour baseball, the thought of being able to hit 100 mile an hour fastball 350 feet is just totally beyond thought. So just want to say that to start with. But last season, Aaron Judge, of course, broke the single season home run record for the Yankees. I know a lot of times people painted it as the home run record because it's possessed by Sosa, McGuire, and Bonds, which are like the three
Barry
public
Bonds.
enemies, right?
Yep.
So
hitters.
yeah, and the funny thing is, and before we go deep, first thing I want you to picture something in your mind. I want you to picture this great big mountain. You know how you see those pictures of Mount Fuji in the distance? Okay, imagine that's money. Okay, and at the foot of that mountain of money, there's two buildings, and one of them is a huge, beautiful rolling villa, and it's called sports betting. Okay. Then on the other side, there's the same building, same size, and it's called organized sports. So just keep that in the back of your mind while you're doing, while I'm throwing all these curves at you and sliders, a little baseball term there, but Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs last year. An amazing feat. Hats off to that young man for doing what he did. Fabulous athlete, incredible, fun to watch, great guy. So to give a quick back history on home runs, when McGuire and Bonds and Sosa were hitting the home runs, my guys, Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux and John Smoltz, weren't allowing him to hit. Yeah. That's right. And we all remember the commercial about chicks dig the long ball. And all the women were going after Mark McGuire, and Maddux and Glavine were doing everything to get the ladies, but they couldn't because chicks dig the long ball. They want the home runs, right?
Okay.
So when it comes down to baseball, home run hitting has always been, since Babe Ruth really put it on the map, home run hitting has always become kind of a standard. And so baseball history, when you speak to people that don't know much about baseball, Babe Ruth is always one of the first names that comes up. Anybody who's a baby boomer, and I say anybody, a large percentage of baby boomers, you got two teams. You've got the Brooklyn Dodgers and you got the New York Yankees. That's it. Because those were the two teams. I think there was only 6 or 8 teams at the time anyway, but nevertheless, they were the teams. So Babe Ruth is legendary in New York. Shoot, he's legendary on the East Coast. You go to Baltimore, he's legendary there because that's where he was born. He had the single season home run record for 40 years. Okay. So here comes 1961 season. You've got a gentleman by the name of Mickey Mantle, who is a pure baseball player. I mean, that guy is just baseball personified. Very popular, and was a homegrown Yankee. In other words, he came up through the system, and was babyface for the Yankee organization. Fantastic ball player. Just the same, there's a gentleman named Roger Maris who came in professionally instead of coming up through the farm teams and everything. He was a very private man, very he stayed away from the press, real not very outgoing, total introvert type guy. And so the press and the city of New York didn't love the guy that much, whereas Mickey Mantle was the guy that they'd see at the bars carrying on every night after the ball games, you know, so he was the popular guy. So anyhow, in 61, the two of these gentlemen are hitting home runs left and right. And everybody wanted Mickey Mantle. If there was going to be somebody who was going to beat the record, they wanted it to be Mick, period. He got hurt and was out for the rest of the season. His home run stopped at 54. Maris, on the other hand, continued to go. All right, so for Major League Baseball, this is where Major League Baseball gets involved. Major League Baseball didn't want Maris to break Babe's record because even they didn't like Maris because Maris wasn't the outgoing face of baseball like Mantle was. So Maris ends up hitting the 61 home runs. So what does Major League Baseball do? They hang an asterisk on that 61 because it took Maris, what was it, 5 more games? 8 more games. Took Maris, 8 more games to hit 61 home runs. So Major League Baseball hung an asterisk on that gentleman's record. Okay. And it stayed there. It stayed there for years. So even though Maris hit those 61 home runs, the baseball community just would not recognize it. Okay. So we move into the steroid era in the early, what was that? That was late 90s. Okay. When we had, and we all saw McGuire, you know, hits the home run, goes around the bases, his son's standing there, he picks his son up, does the Lion King thing. Hey, I ain't gonna lie to you. Little tears coming down my face when it was happening. It was amazing. I was watching history.
Hey, there's no crying in baseball, Dave.
There's no crying in baseball. Tom Hanks taught us that. That's right.
That's right.
So, but Tom wasn't there, so I got away with it. But Sosa hit. I mean, and I had forgotten. Pardon me for addressing my notes, but I had forgotten that. Let's see. Sosa hit 63, 64, 65, 66. Oh, sorry. McGuire hit 65. Sosa 66. McGuire 70. And then in 2001, Bonds hit 73 in a single season. I had to look that up because baseball has drowned the steroid era out of my mind. And with advanced aging, I couldn't remember how many home runs he hit. I knew that he had hit more than 65, but I just couldn't remember how many. Okay. The funny thing is that during the steroid era, what was happening to Major League Baseball?
The players were getting bigger? I don't know. Hitting more home runs, probably.
Yes. And what was that doing? Chicks dig the long ball. That was putting butts in the seats, which goes to what? Money. This stuff. Okay. So I like the way Major League Baseball likes to cast a shadow on the steroid era now. They never returned any of the money. No. Okay. Okay. So don't let Major League Baseball fool you. They made a hot killing because in 1994, they had the player strike, which was very unpopular. And towards the end of the 90s, when McGuire and Bonds and Sosa and Palmeiro and these guys started cranking the home runs out, okay, people started going to the ballpark. And what happens when people go to the ballpark? The money goes through the roof. And to give you a little backup, a little quick, Derek Jeter, when he was playing, the year he retired, which I think was 2014, if I'm not mistaken, bear with my dates and everything. We went to Baltimore. My dad, my brother, and my nephew, we all did a bro thing, got together. We drove to Baltimore and we watched some games out there at Camden. My brother's a big Angels fan. The Angels was playing. So the hotel we were staying at was probably 2 blocks worth of walking to Camden. Okay.
Okay.
I want to say that hotel was, I want to say the room was about $255 a night. And Dad footed the bill. God bless him. Because I never would have been able to afford it. But let's say $250 a night for that room. Okay. The Angels played their series, and the next series, the Yankees were coming into town. And it was going to be the last time Derek Jeter played in Camden. We looked up that same hotel room, okay, and it was $730 some odd dollars for that same hotel room. Okay. Probably the same sheets, the condition of that place, but nevertheless, so in other words, if you look at the long, broad financial spectrum of it, you've got a hotel across the street from Camden that is using the exact same hotel, the exact same everything that it was during the Angel series, and charging $500 more for that facility. Okay. So again, go back to that big mountain of money.
Okay. So wait, so where are we going with all this right now? Because I'm a little confused right now. Are we talking about the conspiracy of the money? Are we talking about the conspiracy of the steroids? And
well, no,
I'm just trying to get it all in perspective here, because I'm seeing my chat right now. Even people watching, they're like, "Where are we going with this?" Well, not to cut you off, but I'm just trying, because see, my show's about cryptids usually, so we're trying to figure out where the conspiracy is going here. And I did tell my audience we were going to be talking about UFOs today.
Well, that's and right.
so let's kind of
I gotcha.
See where the conspiracy is. I'm so sorry. I don't mean.
No, that's quite all right. So what happened?
I just see all the comments right now, and I'm like, oh wait, we gotta reel it in.
Yeah, wrangle it in, no problem.
Yes. Okay.
So what happened this year is Aaron Judge started hitting those home runs. Okay, and when he was hitting those home runs, that started coming back into baseball. People started going to the ballpark again. All right. So where was the issue with all this is the pitchers came up and said, hey, the baseballs feel funny when we're pitching certain times. So, and they weren't just, one of them was Justin Verlander, who's probably the best active pitcher in major leagues right now. So anyhow, what happened was there was a lady, Dr. Wills. She's actually an astrophysicist of some type or another. I might have her profession wrong, but nevertheless, she started collecting baseballs from random ballparks and doing actual physical testing on these balls. Okay.
Oh gosh. So the balls were all different, or they were weighted, or hollow, or what? No
and
way.
She was finding that there was 3 different types of baseballs. One was a weighted baseball that was like 14, give or take. And I'm going to get my weights wrong, but anyhow, there was 3 different baseballs, right? One was weighted, which of course didn't favor the the hitters at all. Then there was one that they called the juiced ball that they were using in 2017, which was a lighter ball that flew much further.
Okay. So this is all, it's all rigged. So I was right from the get-go. Everything's rigged, right? Okay.
Then there was what they called the Goldilocks ball, which was the one right in the middle that was just right. And that's the reason why they call it the Goldilocks ball. Okay. So anyhow, the Goldilocks ball was mainly used for home run derby, all-star game. And the reason why that is because the whole idea behind the home run derby is to hit home runs. So anyhow, where the conspiracy starts kicking in, where the big question mark hits, is that when she was collecting these random balls, the Goldilocks ball, the just right ball, the ball that was the most optimal for hitting home runs, turned up in Yankees games, where Aaron Judge was chasing the home run record. So you figure Aaron Judge, no matter where he played, the attendance, the sales, the revenue was all going through the roof because everybody was wanting to watch him hit home runs, and the possibility that he was going to beat the 50, 60-year-old record of Maris's from 61 that I spoke of earlier. So there were pitchers that were actually developing blisters on their hands that they had never developed before. And they're going, it's funny, I'll use a ball in the first inning and it feels like something. Then I'll throw a ball in the fourth inning and it'll feel totally different. So the pitchers were noticing stuff. So Aaron Judge, and again, not taking anything away from what he did, but what if there was, because where's the chain of custody with these baseballs?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's just something that I've seen from the get-go is that sports are rigged, professional sports, but there's so much money in it, Dave. And that's why, right?
Yeah.
You said about that mountain of money, right? It's because everything is about money. And so many people, listen, even in professional wrestling and in football, whatever, it's all about the money. This draws in huge crowds. Bread and circuses, right? Isn't that the thing? Give them bread and circuses, and it keeps us all in a trance. It's something that if we're busy sitting around watching baseball and football and soccer and all that stuff. And I love sports, y'all. I played rugby for my college. I played soccer in high school. I love sports. Okay. But I also know that it's a distraction from what's really going on in our world. Okay. And that includes UFOs. Okay. And Bigfoot and all this other stuff. But when people are just drawn to these big sports arenas all the time, I mean, it goes back all the way to ancient Rome, even before that. It's just keeping everybody distracted. And there's a vested interest in keeping everybody's attention on rigged sports games. Now, I got to tell you, Dave, there's one instance that I had back when, right after Hurricane Katrina hit. Okay, back in whatever year that was. I can't remember. 2005 maybe, or 4.
5, yeah.
I was in, maybe 5. I actually was a huge Atlanta Falcons fan. Okay. And so I was watching that game. Okay. It was the game back right after Hurricane Katrina, and Atlanta was playing the Saints. Okay. And that was just a game where we had Michael Vick on the team. I know people don't like Mike Vick, but he was a good quarterback when he was a good quarterback for Atlanta. Okay. Back then. And he played a game. He completely threw that game off and lost that game. And I could tell it was 100% on purpose. And I don't care what anybody says. There were so many things that were so just outrageously fumbled and stuff. And it was almost fake. I mean, to me, it was just very fake. So, yeah. Thank you, Area 51. You're awesome.
So icing over the cake real quick, and then we'll get back to UFOs because I know I've totally tangented the whole thing. But sports betting, folks, don't think that there isn't a marriage somehow or another between professional sports and that online betting stuff. There are jillions of dollars. It's huge. Now, a little footnote.
It's all about the money, though, right? Right.
Oh yeah.
And keeping us all in a stupor, not knowing what's going on, believing a narrative, and expecting everyone to go with it, and to not think outside the box. And
that's why they always list people as questionable on injury reports and all that jazz. They know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to skew what all goes down. Now, the last little piece, and only take a second, I apologize, is an interesting little fact. And I challenge everybody to look this up because it goes so much deeper than what I was just talking about. It goes so much further down. In June of 2018, you know what Major League Baseball did? I have no idea. They bought Rawlings. The company makes the baseballs. So
okay. Yeah.
You gotta wonder.
Well, that's it's just a part of everything being rigged. Absolutely.
Right.
And so,
And if you
yeah,
can't
I mean,
use the
but we see
toilet,
that in everyday
use the
life with
toilet.
all sorts of other stuff that's going on too. It's not just baseball, you know. I mean, I was watching a football game where a guy scored a touchdown and he tried to throw the ball off of his glove and it was stuck to his glove.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
couldn't get it off, get his glove off. So yeah. Yeah.
Gotta make you
Well,
wonder.
it does make you wonder. All this stuff makes you wonder. And you know, and the reason we're talking about sports, everybody, because I see there's a lot of people in chat that are really irritated because like we're not talking about cryptids or UFOs. But see, here's the thing. We're talking about all of this because it's all related. Okay. It's not just you know, the government covering up UFOs. It's not just the news and everything has a vested interest in, you know, pulling the wool over our eyes. It's sports too, and this is a big part of what our society does. And maybe not my crowd. You know, I not maybe not everybody that watches my shows are really into sports. I'm not into sports at all anymore. To be honest with you, I have completely kind of detached from sports at this point on my journey because I see that it's so rigged. And Dave, you are here to show us that 100%. Okay, that it's completely, it can be rigged, and it's just there to as like a smoke screen. Okay, when there's way bigger topics in this world that we should be worried about, and I think you could agree with that, right, John?
Yeah, yes, I could. And Jessica, if I may, I've got kind of an interesting UFO story about how a
Okay.
true UFO crash got theory, and
Okay.
I got covered up. Okay, the Aurora crash of 1897, one of the best documented cases of a UFO crash. Judge Proctor's farm, his windmill got destroyed by a UFO that started sinking lower and lower into the sky and crashed into his windmill. Well, the story goes like this. They took the wreckage, they threw it down the well, they covered the well up, Judge Proctor dies, and in the 40s, a family buys the property. And they don't know anything about what's down there at the bottom of the well. And so they uncover the well and they start drinking the water. And every one of them start they start getting these horrible arthritic problems in their hands and their feet. And some research was done, and it was found that the contents of the well were highly, highly radioactive. So where we're
Okay.
really going with this is what happened to the story. This is a real story of a real UFO crash that happened in Aurora, Texas. So what happens is some itinerant dude, you know, like the Mr. Haney from Green Acres, you know, that's got everything on his wagon. He comes by and he tries to sell stuff to people. And he made a remark to a young lady that said, well, you know about Judge Proctor. He just wants to be famous and talk about this stuff. Well, her younger sister heard that from just some dude walking around, driving around in a wagon. So that young lady turns out to be the head of the Aurora Historical Society. And so she is then convinced, and she makes it her point in life to discredit the Aurora UFO crash. They had a body, they buried the body mysteriously disappeared from the cemetery. And so all that, you know, all the real proof of this thing gets covered up, eliminated. And now she's out there, and she's still out there today talking about this is just not true. That is generating a conspiracy theory out of a real UFO incident. Now, here's what
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. On the 125th
Okay.
anniversary, I got asked by the local newspaper to be on their podcast called Making a Mess. And I talked about this lady, and I talked about how her source of information was ridiculous. And yet she is
Okay.
trying to convince people this UFO crash didn't happen. It's a conspiracy theory in the making. You know what's really funny? They never broadcast that podcast. They've got all the others on there, but mine, where I was the guest and talking about how she had created a conspiracy theory out of fact, was never broadcast. And I called them a couple times. Oh, well, we had problems, this and that, and this and that. Garbage. They just didn't want that to get out, and they didn't want to make the Historical Society of Aurora, Texas mad. So people are out there that want to cover up. I mean, for whatever reason, I guess she felt all powerful that she could cover up something that really happened. So what I'm telling everybody is you got to look at conspiracy theories two ways. Are they just, kind of out there, or is somebody trying to generate a conspiracy theory? And it's like, why are they doing it? Why do they want to cover up the truth? And, covering up the truth should be a crime. At least it's a crime. It's a crime against civilization, not necessarily crime against whatever. But, I don't understand that. And they still to this day can't explain to me why my podcast on the 125th anniversary of the Aurora crash got covered up.
Yeah. Well, I actually know someone very, very dear to me who looked into that and has some affiliations with MUFON. My friend Katie Page, actually, out of Colorado MUFON, she has really done a lot of research on that. And so I hope she writes a book on it, actually, because she's done some interviews. I believe this is the case. I'm almost 100% sure. The case where she actually went and talked to the coroner that actually examined the body of one of those, that little being there. So yeah, I don't know, John. There's a vested interest in covering all of this stuff up and keeping the truth from us. So absolutely. Area 51, thank you again. So I don't know what that means, but yes, thank you for your super chat there.
Look what they did to Dr. Lazar. And, me speaking earlier about being the skeptic on these things is when he speaks, I listen. And when he speaks, he brings a certain amount of logic and realism to it. And even a guy like me that kind of is like, because I know a big breaking factor for me now are phones. Back in 75, when you said you saw Bigfoot or an alien or whatever, anything unusual, it was always convenient you didn't have a camera with you. But nowadays, everybody has these phones, and they're always in your hand. And that's the nifty thing that's going on right now with UFO sightings, where the government's actually having to kind of step back and go, uh-oh, because people are actually getting documented. They're just not saying, hey, I saw red lights in my backyard last night. Yeah. They're videoing these things. And, stuff that Dr. Lazar was talking about in his experiences, how can you not believe him? Because he has a consistent story. He's got dates, he's got places, he's got names. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. And I think folks need to start, embracing that idea and quit trying to sweep it under the rug. Yeah.
Well, but there's a reason to sweep it under the rug. But now I feel like things are coming out, there's a lot of disclosure going on every topic, from even UFOs and cryptids and all that stuff, and the rigging in sports. I don't know. Is anybody listening though? That's the issue, I guess. Does anybody care? Right.
Well, as long as the money stacks up, nobody's ever going to do anything about it.
Well, Jessica, I've got kind of a final comment here on this.
Okay.
Our friend Robin McCrae, Robin, she's a Bigfoot experiencer, and she's a lovely lady. She's one of the nicest people I know. And Robin had an incredible UFO sighting at her house. And her son-in-law, Ryan, took some brilliant photographs of it, and he took a video of it. Okay. And so she emailed it out to about 10 people, and MUFON just went all crazy over it. They said it was the best documented sighting they had ever seen. Well, why is it that now when any of those 10 go to their emails, the file is gone? Why is that?
I mean, there's a lot of times when I'm dealing with paranormal stuff, things delete on their own. So you never know.
Okay, now come on. Things delete on their own. The doors open by themselves? No.
Yes.
And files don't delete. Files don't delete by themselves.
I'll argue with you on that one. I've seen doors open on their own plenty of times. So absolutely.
No, That was a double entendre. But I'm talking about files don't delete themselves, especially not files of UFO sightings. They get deleted.
They do.
I mean, that's
listen. Okay, I can tell you for a fact, 100% sure. I had some footage, or it was actually EVPs. Okay, with my voice recorder out in the field, I had UFO activity going on, and when I listened to the playback, it sounded just like bottle rockets going off all around me at this time when we were having a UFO overhead. Well, I went back to go listen to it again, and it was erased. Okay, and I did not erase that. Okay, so things can erase on their own, actually. But it's not really on its own. Probably some kind of time edit happened and somebody came and erased it for me. So
somebody erased it for you.
Something did, maybe, perhaps.
Listen, anybody can get into anybody's computer. That's a fact. They can get into mine. That's why I'm not even that careful about my passwords anymore. I have a set of passwords that I use, and anybody with any sense, any hacker can get my password. So I mean, I'm just done with it, and I just try to make enough copies that maybe I got one laying around. What Robin doesn't know is that I have a copy of that on a flash drive that nobody can get to. But the whole point is, everybody seems to be so interested in covering this stuff up. I firmly do not believe the government it really cares. I believe it's all window dressing, and I don't think we'll ever hear anything about this release of information. I really don't. And I'll go on the record saying that, and I'm probably going to be right. About the only place you're going to find us, books like mine, people like you that have great podcasts that talk about this stuff. We're always going to be the only source for this until the day the earth stands still and the UFO lands on the lawn of the White House. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, I'm always saying that disclosure comes from people like us, and who have the shows that bring the real researchers on that are out there doing boots on the ground research, and so we're the ones that are going to be exposing the truth. Don't ever look to your government for the truth, anybody. No. Okay, I'm just saying, right? Or the heads of these corporations.
Not the truth.
Right.
But to a certain extent, society has to be protected from itself sometimes. I mean, there's the other side of the argument that there is some information out there, that there are some people that just don't need any more information. And yeah, there's something out there. If the government is going through this much work to keep the mojo down, obviously there's something at play.
Yeah.
And come on, they went to a lot of trouble to write Project Blue Book, which said nothing.
Right.
And I mean, they went to a lot of trouble, and I mean, they're spending a lot of our tax dollars. But then, that's their job, is to spend money, not to conserve it. So anyway, you're right. Disclosure comes from researchers like us that are out there, and they can do what they want to, but there is an undercurrent of people that really are concerned about the truth. And Jessica, you and I and Dave are going to give them the truth, aren't we?
The truth. That's all I can do. Amy, thank you for that super sticker. And Area 51, again, thank you once again for your super stickers. Y'all are awesome. I know this has been a lot of fun, y'all. Okay, so Dave and John, where can people find your podcast and your shows? Give me a little rundown before we go today.
John, take it away, because we have a whole new setup and everything. I'm just the guy that runs his mouth about baseball.
Okay. What you can do is you can go to facebook.com/ScaryCast and get the Monday, Tuesday, and the upcoming Thursday podcast. And you can go to facebook.com/PopCultureStars for Pop Culture Stars, which we'll be doing tonight. We'll have Jessica on next week, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And Pop Culture Stars has been going on for 7 years. I looked in my Blog Talk Radio thing, and I have somehow managed to host 881 podcasts.
It's great.
Hey, congratulations. And Dave, you have the Hunger series out. And so I wanted to put this up there if anybody's interested in checking out your book series. So
yes, thank you so much. It's on Amazon.com. And there's 3 books in the series: Rotting Frontier, Revelations, and Ripper. They all run in that order. And again, if you're into history, if you're into the survival horror, the twists on history, that kind of stuff, check it out, because it's not only going to stop there. Book 4 is done, just got to get it in print. 5's about halfway done. It's just and I'm sure you all will agree, sometimes real life takes over and you got to keep the lights on. So
well,
you know,
yeah.
the working
we can relate to that.
So yeah, Amazon.com. I'm there if you're anywhere on the East Coast, Carolinas, ballpark. And chances are I will be seeing you, Miss Jessica, in just here in April? Dr.
Yeah.
John?
What
April 1.
Yes. April.
So-
oh yeah, the Bigfoot conference. Yes, up in Dillard. Yeah, I can't wait. That's going to be a good time. Area 51. Thank you for one more.
Yeah, it's about a 7-hour drive
You're
for me,
awesome.
but I mean, 7 hours. I don't see why not. If everything falls into place, I will be there. And
Well-
but yes, anybody who's willing to check out the Hunger series on Amazon, million thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. And the Georgia Bigfoot Conference, Dr. John, that is going to be so amazing. Tell our audience about the Bigfoot Conference.
Okay, the
Are you
Georgia
there?
Bigfoot Conference.
Okay.
This is the 6th. We've got a great piece of artwork. We've got a great new artist working for our Comicons system, and his name's Brian Nyford, and he does great work. So you can check the new website will be up tomorrow. There are only so many hours in the day, but the new website will be up, GeorgiaBigfootConference.org. Check it out tomorrow, not today. It's going to be a great. We're going to have you. We're going to have Matt Delph, our buddy. We're going to have Robin McCrae Haynes and her husband Pat. We're going to have. Let's see. I will be there, and Dave Atwell will be there. Trey Hudson will not be able to make it because he has got a prior commitment. But you know, I've got a couple other folks that I'm talking to. We're going to have a great group of people at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference. It's at the Dillard House. It's at a 4-star lodge, and they jumped at the chance to have the Georgia Bigfoot Conference. It's in one of the most beautiful places in America. I went there this past weekend. It is a gigantic 6,400 square foot room with fireplace, with just it's beautiful. So everybody come to the Georgia Bigfoot Conference, Clayton, Dillard, Georgia. In other words, if you hit a driver, you'd be in North Carolina. If you hit you're about 300 yards from North Carolina, but you're in Northeast Georgia. You're at the highest point in Georgia, and Jessica knows all about War Woman Road, and I've got my spots for Bigfoot. And we love Rabun County because they support the Georgia Bigfoot Conference so much. And I want to thank Linda Scarborough at the Chamber and CJ with tourism. They're the nicest people. They have taken that conference as their own, and they want people to come to the Georgia Bigfoot Conference. And thank you very much, Rabun County, Georgia.
Oh my gosh, I love Clayton, Georgia. Hey, Bob, this is Grumpy. Grumpy's one of my teammates. He said he'll be attending. And so you should actually get Bob to talk. I mean, I don't know if he feels like it, but Bob, he's a great one to talk about Bigfoot. He's one of our most dedicated researchers in the field. I'd say he's one of the best Bigfoot researchers in the world, actually, Bob. So hats off to Bob, Grumpy.
All right. Well, Jessica, be sure to get me back in touch with him. I met him at the first Georgia Bigfoot Conference. He was kind enough to attend. So please give me some contact information. I'd love to talk with him. I'd love to have him there talking, or at least just have him there.
Well, he's going to be there. I believe he was at the last one too. I don't know. Bob goes everywhere with us, so he's boots on the ground, and very supportive of all the conferences that we do. So yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you guys so much for this amazing show today. This is a lot of fun. We went all the way from UFOs to hitting balls out the park today.
I apologize.
And that was amazing. Yeah, I had a really good time. Thank everybody for the super stickers today, for the super chats. Thank everybody for bearing with us on this conspiracy theory. I know conspiracy theory shows can be a little wonky. They get a little crazy. So, So anyways, I think this whole world is a conspiracy theory right now. Like everything that we do, everything that's on the news. Don't watch the news. I don't watch the news anymore. I don't even turn the TV on. The sports are rigged. The government lies to us. I mean, there's not much more to say other than that. So Thank everybody for being here. I hope you guys will join me tomorrow night. I have a remote viewing show at 8 p.m. right here at the Cryptid Huntress. I'm probably going to be talking about the Otter Man. Okay, so buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be a weird one. And you guys join me also on this weekend at Spaced Out Radio, 10 o'clock. I've got some great guests coming on, including William Nighthawk. He's my guest on Sunday. So Dave and Dr. John, thank y'all so much for being here. I hope you guys will both come back. And so thank you. Oh, and thank you to everybody, all my moderators. They're in the chat today. You guys are the best. Okay. And thanks for the super stickers. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Goodbye, Dave. Goodbye, Dr. John. And we'll see y'all soon. All right. Bye.